to nationals, but this year she got first place in regionals, so national. Good morning, my name is Catherine. I have business development with Stewart Title in Williamson County. We appreciate you all being here today. We have Lindsay with Cure Staging that's going to go over a quick presentation to share about what her company has to offer you all. As far as with Stewart Title, please reach out to me if you need any marketing materials, relocation guides, any support. We're here to be that for you. If you have any questions, our door is always open, so feel free to reach out. Lindsay, I'll let you do your presentation.
Thank you, Catherine. Hey guys, my name is Lindsay Quinones. I am the owner and lead designer at Cure Staging and Design. We provide home staging services to real estate agents and homeowners all over the Austin area. Today I have a little presentation that I'm going to go over to just kind of teach everybody a little bit more about home staging and about what we do as a company to provide these services. So let's get started.
We'll improvise.
It's not on my computer. I think it's on Brandon's.
Oh, yeah, so it's on this
one.
Yep, got it.
Okay. So what is home staging? We all know that home staging is the act of preparing and showcasing a property for sale to be put on the market. RISA classifies home staging as the systematic and coordinated act of using real estate knowledge, creative design principles, and home renovations in order to do this. Here at Cure Staging, we also believe in using psychology in home staging. Selling your house is one of the most emotional transactions that you will probably ever make, and it's also very emotional for buyers. So being able to tap into the psychology and help people understand what buyers are going to need to see and feel in order to create their emotional connection is very big in home staging, as well as being able to talk to the sellers and help them understand why they need to live without certain things for 30 to 60 days, or place things differently, and how to really get to them and help them understand why we need to showcase your property this way is very important. A lot of people commonly misconceive staging for decorating, and they think, well, my home is decorated very well, so why do I need to stage it? It's very important to understand that decorating is not staging. While your house might look like a Pottery Barn catalog, it is also set up to your very specific lifestyle and your very specific tastes and wants. And that might not appeal to the mass majority of buyers. So as stagers, we have to go in and we have to help these people understand that there are things we need to do differently in order to attract more buyers to your house. Next slide.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're having some trouble with the clicker here. Okay, so RISA, I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with that. It's the Real Estate Staging Association. It's kind of like the National Association of Realtors, but for stagers. They do annual statistics and reports on home staging, and our latest one shows that homes that are staged first spend 90% less time on market as opposed to homes that go on the market unstaged. That's huge. That's a big stat, and I've provided everybody with a little one-page marketing sheet that says 72% because that was from 2 years ago. So we're still constantly growing in the staging industry and getting better and better. So how do I change the slides?
I get it.
Awesome. Thank you. So here's a few reasons just why staging is important as a homeowner. Obviously, we stage to get more appealing photos on the market first and foremost. So the photos are what's going to attract your buyers. So more photos, more appealing images leads to more foot traffic, more showings. It spends less time on market. Statistically, you can also net up to 6% more in asking price for homes that are staged because it creates an emotional connection with your buyer, and the goal is to create a bidding war. So homes that are staged are viewed by buyers as being well maintained. They think that if the homeowner is going to put this effort into the presentation of their home, they've probably put the same amount of effort into the presentation of, into the fixing of the mechanicals and the maintenance overall. Buyers can more easily visualize themselves living in the home when it's staged because we help display the function and the purpose of each space. And buyers also tend to overlook faults and any distractions, any negative qualities in the home because they focus more on the overall look and the overall appeal that we create when staging the home. Next slide, please. Okay, so we also have some very specific reasons for real estate agents on why staging is beneficial. And first and foremost, bringing in an objective third party into your listing is always helpful. A lot of real estate agents do have a very good grasp on how a house needs to show because it's what you guys do for a living. But sometimes there's things where it's just helpful to have an extra opinion. And beyond that, it's helpful to have a third party come in and be that bad person for you and be able to tell the homeowners the things that you might not want to say in fear of offending them. So we're professionally trained to do that without offending them. We also provide additional marketing for your listing, and we provide resources for you. So we can help you guys build your reputation by looking more resourceful and tapping into our resources as well. And of course, it makes it easier for you to sell your listing because it looks 100 times better and you can get a higher asking price. All right, so here at Cure Staging, the services we provide are vacant home staging. We offer furniture and decor rental services. We own all of our own inventory. We offer occupied staging consultations in which we'll come into the home and we'll walk through with the homeowners and the agents and we'll help them prepare their home with their existing belongings. Beyond that, we can provide decor rentals if they need just a little bit of pizzazz to help create that wow factor in their home. We offer interior design and decorating services, and our company does have MLS and e-key access so that we are able to further look into the demographics and the comparables of the market and help figure out your targeted end buyer and what style we need to help attract them. Okay. This is just a quick example of what our sellers consultations look like for our occupied consultations. We go into a lot of detail room by room, helping them to understand exactly what to do to prepare their home. Okay. And a few tips for you guys when you're preparing these listings for the market. First and foremost, go neutral. You want to appeal to the largest majority of buyers possible. So one example that I love using is a home that we staged recently that had red walls. The entire living room was red walls, and they loved it. They absolutely loved it, and they had a friend come and do it for them, and it was very emotional for them. So we had to be able to really get to them and help them understand that even though this is something that's special to you, you're eliminating 99% of buyers who don't want a red wall. And it's also creating the image that there's work to be done, and we don't want any negative aspects when buyers walk into a house. Curb appeal. So buyers will make up their minds subconsciously when within the first 10 seconds of seeing a home. So we want that first impression to count. You know, simple things like black mulch, colorful flowers, just making sure that your home sticks out from the competition around it is going to be your first step. Depersonalize, removing any personal photos, political, religious, or even excessive sports themed decor is going to help the buyers to be able to place their own life into that house and not feel like it's somebody else's home already. Declutter, removing any large or outdated furniture. 90% of the time, I suggest removing pool tables, pianos, things like that. In some cases, it's better to have nothing there than that oversized, outdated armchair that's just kind of dragging the space down. Make sure to hire the right stager. And that's really important to me, whether you use our company or not. Make sure that you research the stager that you're using. Make sure that they have accreditations and that they have a proper portfolio to be able to provide the right professional level of service. And make sure that you mesh well with whoever you're hiring. If you bring somebody into your client's home that's, you know, maybe disagreeing with you on things, or that you're disagreeing with them, it's not going to have the client respect them or you as an agent. So just make sure that you interview people and that you hire the right person. And that's it. So we're a member of the Real Estate Staging Association. We provide a lot of great marketing and tips and tools, and I think that's open to anybody. Even agents can join if they want to, just to get some knowledge on the staging industry and how to better help present your listings. So thank you guys for listening to me. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I was in a house the other day, I had an open house, and there were orange walls in one of the bedrooms. And not only was it orange, it was patchy, and so it was horrible. So if the stager was brought in, would you recommend a painter or just change this wall?
Yes, so we will first figure out what the client's ability is. And if they have the financial ability to hire a painter, we have a wide range of painters. We have, budget painters, a little higher end painters. And if it's something that they do themselves, I will refer them to, usually it's a blog that I have on how to properly paint walls. I will also refer them to the right paint color, and we'll give them all the resources they need to, yeah, we want to make it seem easy for them to do because they need to do it, So that's it. If you guys have any questions at all or would like to learn more, go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/CareStaging. We've got a lot of helpful videos and some awesome marketing we're putting out with Brandon in the next week or so. So thank you guys.
Just a quick shout out for Lindsay. I know she didn't mention this, but we were at a house yesterday and we were doing a video shoot. She was providing some tips on staging, and then I did some stuff on marketing or do some co-marketing together. But the home we were at, she staged, and how fast did it sell?
4 days.
Yeah. So, and it was beautiful. You walked in there, it was perfect. It looked like a place that you wanted to buy. So I highly recommend, if you guys aren't using a stager, to definitely look into talking to Lindsay or just the staging company in general. So
thank you.
Shout out. Yeah, no problem.
Thanks, guys. Okay, you're up.
Okay, Brandon.
Yes.
You are up, sir.
All right. I'm gonna stop sharing this real quick. Hello, oh, look at that. And I'm gonna minimize this. And I'm telling you what I'm doing so there's no really lag time. All right, should be good.
You're live.
Okay. Good?
You're good.
All right. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Whoa. Let me do that a little bit better. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
There we go. I know you guys are getting great tacos, and if you guys are online, then I'm sorry you're missing out on the tacos. You should be here, even though it's raining. It's not that bad outside. There's definitely been worse storms in Texas and central Texas. So, but my name is Brandon Lewin. If you've never been on one of my talks today, I hope you are excited because we're going to be doing a lot today. We're going to talk about automation and actually how to close more deals by using less time with using automation. So anyone currently use, let's say raise their hands, anyone currently using automation in any format, social media, email, anything along those lines? Yes, okay. Online, just give me a yes or no if you're using it. What are you using for automation purposes? I'm gonna go with you, young lady.
Now you said email.
Yes.
Are you talking about advertising or, I send emails to clients.
Yeah,
Is that
so
what you're talking about?
yeah, absolutely. So there's email marketing automation tools. So there are tools where you can set up a series of emails that go out without you actually having to push send every single time.
Oh,
So do you
I
use,
don't use that.
what agency are you with or brokerage?
Right here.
KW. So KW actually has a cool tool. I think they just came out with Edge, I believe it's called.
It's
Or
on command now.
Command, that's it. So it went from Edge, now it's onto Command. So I know Command has those capabilities. I believe it integrates with MailChimp the last time I remember. But those are tools that you can definitely use. Is everyone else with KW here? No? What agency?
Horizon Realty.
Horizon. Do you guys use any type of CRM or anything?
It's recommended. We don't.
Okay.
Brokerage, we don't
Okay.
have any of that.
All right. And sir, how about you? Do you use any sort of automation? Yeah? Okay. Great. So I'm just trying to gauge where everybody is for right now. And then if anyone online is using any sort of tools, please let me know.
Nicole Smith says, not yet, with a smiley face.
Okay. We're going to talk about those tools today and also how to actually automate your processes. And so to get started, I always like to open this up to see what everyone else is really looking to gauge out of today. I have a whole lot of information I'm going to share. I have best practices, processes, tools, everything you're going to get that has been in my head for quite a while is going to be put out here, and you guys are going to be able to walk away and use this stuff today. But I want to make sure you're getting the full value out of today. So does anybody have any specific areas or questions you would like answered today? And this including with everybody online as well. Not all at once. All right. Well, I'll let the people talk online. If you have any specific questions or areas you want to cover, please let me know. But we're going to jump right into it. So I do a lot of these talks. If you've ever been on one, you'll probably have seen this. And we're going to talk about 3 key principles today, okay? And this is really just coming down to like core marketing in general. So the first key principle is value. That's creating value and providing value for your audience. Number 2 is trust. So that's what we're going to be able to build from the value that we provide. So when we add value to people, we're going to build up that trust. From that trust, we earn the opportunity to ask. And we want to make sure we do that. Now, most times real estate agents have a tendency to start kind of backwards, where they ask majority of the time instead of providing value. And so we're going to deconstruct that a bit, that philosophy, and really implement some core principles here that'll really help you. And this will go in directly into the automation process, because automation is easy. Like really just to be able to figure out how to do the automation is pretty simple. It's about what you actually do with that automation is what's going to get you results. So you could really go on there, and there are plenty of tools, including Command and other places, where you'll go in there and they'll give you a template, and they'll say for, new buyers, do this, and for sellers, do this. And so they give you all that information. But again, it's really not geared towards this kind of principle layout of value, building trust, and then asking. It's really more so buy from me, or I'm going to sell your property, whatever it is, but it's really more so that bottom part first. And we have to really change that around if you're going to get proper results from all of this. Okay, so with that said, the first thing you need to think about with automation is that there's really 2 major parts that you can use your automation for. First is social media. So you can automate your social media activity quite a bit. And then there's email, which is a big one. Does anyone, I know, I believe you've been in one of my classes before, right? I've seen you before, and you have too, okay. So you said use email. Email's a big one. If you aren't using email the right way or using it often, you should be. It is still a major communication tool when it comes to marketing. It's probably one of the most intimate forms of communication. I just saw a stat that showed that 50% of people check their emails every morning. And then Gen Z, which is like the younger underneath millennials, they're even checking their emails on a daily basis. So even though they're on TikTok and Snapchat and not on Facebook, they are still using email. And that just goes to show the type of power email has. And really, I like to think about it as in the sense, once you get in, someone gives you their email and they say, hey, you know what, send me an email. I'd like to get information. They're pretty much saying, sell me something, especially from a business perspective. So using email and capturing email is very important. And we're going to talk about how to automate that today. So these are the 2 major marketing channels that we're going to talk about automation. But you can do a lot of other type of automation that we won't get into today. We're also going to cover a tool called Zapier. Has anyone heard of that tool before? Zapier? Okay. If you haven't heard of it, you need to jump on it, because one is free for the most part, unless you're using it for some of the premium features. But it allows you to connect everything. You can literally take something from an Excel spreadsheet and throw it onto email, or you can bring it from your CRM into a spreadsheet. You can do all sorts of things with Zapier, and they have thousands of apps. Basically what it is though, it's an app that connects other apps that are not normally connected. So they create what they call a Zap. And for example, I'll give you a quick example of how I use it. A lot of the times is I have Facebook ads that either I run for myself, for my comedy business that I run. Yes, I do comedy as well. And I also do it for clients, especially with real estate agents. And so we run Facebook ads. And a lot of times what we'll do is we'll generate leads. So we'll take those leads and then we put them into a Zap. And that Zap goes from Facebook. You get actually a text message notification. Then it goes into email notification, and the email can go out to like 5 different people. From the email, we put it into a CRM, whatever CRM they might be using. And then from there, it goes into an Excel spreadsheet. Well, I use Google spreadsheets because it's on the cloud and you don't have to worry about saving it and never crashes. It's just much better in my opinion. So that's what it looks like. It can even go a little bit further if you want to, but it connects all this. And so once that lead comes in from Facebook, it goes through all of this process. The nice thing is that because with Facebook leads, lead ads, you don't actually get notified from Facebook. So what this allows you to do is you get that notification on a text message, you'll get an email, it goes directly in your CRM. We actually build a drip campaign in the CRM that automatically gets triggered once they come in through here, and then it gets backed up in the Google spreadsheet. So doing all of this by spending literally like 10 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, maybe an hour max. But if you spend about an hour, then you don't have to worry about it ever again. You might have to go back and do a little bit of maintenance, but for the most part, it's all set up in the beginning, and then it gets worked out that way. So that's one way, just to give you an example of how Zapier can help you, but there's 1,000 other ways that it can really utilize automation. So these are the channels we're going to cover today. Zapier is one of the tools. If anyone wants to take a picture, yes, ma'am.
I have a question.
Yes.
With Zapier, you have to do Facebook ads. That's number one.
You don't have to. I was just giving an example. That's one of the major ways. But like I said, it connects thousands of apps on there. So if you say, I want to figure out how I can use my Excel spreadsheets, just for example, how I can use that, you can type in Excel spreadsheets, and you can pick that one, and then it'll give you a number of recommended zaps, is what they call it, to be able to connect it to. So there's a number of different ways. You can just go on there and look at it. You could even type in, email and see what pulls up. Yes?
Can you connect your own personal website to it? Your business website?
I think so. It just depends on what you're looking to do. And it depends on what your website's on. It's more for apps. So like, if it's, let's say, for example, you have a WordPress website and you have a form on there, whatever form you're using, you can look what that app is on Zapier, and you can connect that form to, let's say, your CRM, and it can automatically go in there if it doesn't already have an integration.
Okay.
That's just an example off the top of my head. But yeah, it just depends on what you're looking to do with your website. Cool. All right. So let's go back a little bit and let's talk about what exactly you're going to use in your automation real quickly. So this is going to be a little marketing. I would call this more like 201 than anything else. But we're going to talk about content creation. Does anyone currently create content? Yes. Yes, you do. I know you do. We just did yesterday. Anyone else create content?
I'm sorry.
Content can be like, social media can be considered content, videos, blog posts. You create content because you create emails though, right? You said
Emails. I hate social media, and I'm just fighting it tooth and nail.
You're gonna have, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to get over that.
I've heard that.
Have you been in one of my social media classes too?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I've been in
I
a
just
lot
didn't
of them.
convince you, huh? Enough?
It's just,
Or just fighting it?
yeah. I mean, I get frustrated when I'm in there.
It's okay. We're gonna make things a little easier today, and that's what this is all about. Because really, I think where social media becomes the most frustrating for people is they don't know what they're doing and they don't get results from it. And if you don't know what you're doing with it, you're not going to get results from it. So having a plan, having a system, having processes makes it so you know where you're going and what you should expect from it. A lot of times people just go into social media and they're throwing a bunch of junk against the wall hoping something sticks, right? And then they're like, oh, why am I not getting results? And if I'm not getting results, I'm not going to do this anymore. Screw social media, poof, and then kick it out the window. But in all essence, if you do use it the right way, you do get results. I did an Instagram class 2 weeks ago here, and there was some gentleman was actually very much against using Instagram. He's like, oh, I don't believe you can actually get results from using Instagram. Has anyone actually gotten a house sold or bought or got a buyer from it? And 4 people raised their hands and they said, I did. And one woman who actually was a lender, she got 2 loans within the last 2 weeks of that class from using Instagram. So if you do it the right way and you have a process, it will work for you, and it makes your life a lot easier. Yes, ma'am.
But with Instagram, I do have an Instagram account. It was only to follow actually one of my daughters.
Okay.
So I know what she's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I have a few people
Spying
on
on
there,
her,
right? I needed to see her. And so, you know, I have a few people in there, but it's nothing to do with business. So I know in Facebook, I had to set up, he told me to set up a Facebook account, which I did for business.
Yeah.
And it is sitting there for a year now. But in Instagram, do you have to set up a business account?
Yes, you should. So
Okay.
you should set up a business account, and really you can just take, so for everyone online, the young lady here asked if she should take her Instagram and switch it over from a personal to a business, and I would say absolutely yes, you should, and it's pretty easy to do. You just take your business one or your personal one, go into the settings. I can show you after class if you want, and you just click the button and it transforms it into a business account.
Does it take away the personal account?
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
I
what
like
it does, it
Instagram
takes
better
your
than
personal
Facebook.
and puts it into a business one,
Yeah.
so it transforms it, but it doesn't take anything away from what you're doing on it currently. So we can talk about it a little bit more.
Does the Zapier work with Instagram as opposed to Facebook?
So that tool doesn't specifically work with it in some circumstances.
Okay.
There's another tool we'll talk about today that'll help us as well. But let's talk about content real quickly. So these are some of the different forms of content that you can create. And what I always say is that you really need to think, first and foremost, you have to think of your audience, okay? So you have to identify who your audience is. Audience meaning, who's your perfect client? What do they look like? Is it a young family? Is it an executive? Is it someone who's moving from out of state and coming here? What do those people look like? Pick a niche if you really can, and that'll help you tremendously with creating your content. Because when it comes down to content, you have to think about your audience. And if you have too many people you have to think about, your marketing and your content becomes diluted and it's all over the place. And then it's hard to really focus in. Do you guys remember what Amazon started off as before they became what they are today? Selling books, that's right. 1999, they were selling books online. They basically knocked out Barnes and Nobles, and they definitely knocked out, what was the other one? I don't remember the other one that's not even in business anymore. Probably one of those, but there was another one too.
Borders.
Borders, that's it. That's the one I was looking for. Borders is no longer around. Barnes and Nobles, you see like a few of them, and they've adjusted pretty well. But yeah, that's what Amazon started as, and now they sell everything. So, but it goes to show you the power of niching. When you focus in on a specific audience or specific group of people, you can expand from there. So think about it from that perspective. Now, when you think about, when we talk about creating content, there's 6 major categories that all real estate agents should really focus in on. Number 1 is your story. Does anyone want to take a guess at why your story is so important?
It's a people business.
Correct.
And we need to, we need people to know who we are.
Yes.
What we do.
Absolutely.
And
So
who we are individually, not just a group.
yes, that is perfectly said. So the young lady in the back said it's a people business, and that people need to know who we are as individuals, not as a group. And that is perfectly said. Thank you so much for sharing that. Really great. I'm going to steal that too, by the way. But I'll give you, just give me your name and your card, and I'll give you the rights for it afterwards. So you're right. The story, the thing is like when people talk about it, they say, all right, I'm a real estate agent, and there are, what is there, like 12,000 real estate agents just in the Austin area, right? There are, I believe, the last time I checked was 1.9 million real estate agents in the United States. So you talk about that as a lot of people, a lot of competition. How do you cut through that noise and really differentiate yourself, truly differentiate yourself from other people? It's your story. Because the only person that owns that story is you, no one else. no one can come from the background that you came from, and there's similarities, but in all essence, there's some great stories. I talked to a gentleman, and he's not a real estate agent, but he just had a really good story. Yesterday, he was telling me, I was asking him, he's a financial advisor, but he was actually a chef for 20 years. He actually used to be a chef on movie sets, big time movie sets, and cooking for the cast and the crew. And he was in New York, cooked in some major restaurants. He was really, really well known, but he started to, a couple things happened. One life event occurred where his parents, his dad got diagnosed with cancer, and he was fairly young in his 60s, but he had to get his money correct to make sure that him and his brother got that stuff together. So he made sure he got his finances in a row so they could get it the proper way, so he didn't have to go through probate and all that stuff. So he did that right before he passed. And then right after that, his mother developed Alzheimer's, and she passed as well. But without all that done before the two of them passing, they would have gone through a headache. Not only that, but they're grieving their parents, right? And so for him, he had to come to a life decision. That happened to him. Then also he was starting his young family. He was getting married. He was about to have a kid. And so he's like, I need to get out of this lifestyle that I'm in. It's just too much. It's taking away on my relationship. And so he thought about it, and he said, well, I really was intrigued by how we went about creating this financial process and what he was able to do from it. And it really impacted him personally. And so he wanted to be able to help other people do that. And so that was his why. And that was his story of why he got into it. He actually went back to school for 4 years, continued to be a chef for that 4 years while he was in college, had a young family, got his finance degree, and then became a financial advisor. And I was like, wow, man. I'm like, looking at him, I never would have suspected, but that is a very powerful, emotional story that when he tells people that stuff, people are going to grasp onto it. And that's the same thing. Like what I always tell people is that in your story, you want to really define your why. Why do you do what you do? There's a great person named Simon Sinek, S-I-N-E-K. He's got a book that's called Start With Why, or it could be like Start With Your Why, but I think it's Start With Why. And if you actually go onto YouTube and you watch his TED Talk, just search Simon Sinek TED Talk on there, you will actually find his talk that is his book in 18 minutes. So it's like the Cliff Notes version of it. And if you want to do both, like watch the video, I watch the video at least like twice a year. I read the book probably once a year or so. I have it on Audible, so I just go kind of like through it pretty quickly. But it's a great book because it talks about a lot of examples of people and businesses that have started with the why. And he has this, what he calls this circle, and there's an inner part of the circle, which is the why, and then it goes out to the what and the how. And then what he says is that if you start from, most businesses start from the outside, what, how, and why, versus starting from the inside and going out. And the ones that start from the inside and going out really last. They build a sustainable business. So, and he gives examples of like Apple as a good example. He uses TiVo as a bad example. He uses Martin Luther King Jr. as a great example. He uses the Wright brothers as a great example. Like I had no idea that Wright brothers were actually competing against someone else at that same time to create the first airplane. And actually that person, and he shares his story in there, so I'm not doing it full justice, but the person that was actually going against the Wright brothers, he was funded. He had all the publicity. He had everything behind him, but he didn't have that purpose, that why, that drive. And so he fizzled out eventually. And the Wright brothers didn't have any of that. They didn't have any money. They didn't have any publicity. They just went ahead and had that passion to create an airplane. And they were the first people to do that. And so that is why they were able to succeed versus why the other person wasn't. And that shows why companies, people also don't. So start with the why. I highly recommend that. Include that in your story. And so I know that was a really long explanation of your story, but there's a lot to be said in there. And also the thing you have to remember is that once you create your story, you have stories within your story. A lot of times I'll do in my beginning of my presentations, I'll share my story of why I love real estate. But within that story, there's a lot of more stories. There's stories about how I first got started in entrepreneurship when I was 10 years old. There's stories about when I decided to become a financial advisor when I was 24. There's all sorts of stories. So you just remember, just because you have a general story, you also have other stories inside of there that you should share on an ongoing basis with people. So number 2 is your philosophies. So what you believe and what you don't believe. As a real estate agent, you are licensed. You have a code of ethics. You have to stick by those code of ethics. But there's also things that you believe in, why people should be doing certain things or why they shouldn't be doing them. So share those philosophies. Those are very important.
On Facebook, or are you talking just first of all decide for yourself
So this is
who you are?
Well, no, so philosophies, I mean, you should already have kind of those understood, like who you are.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is sharing them in a form of content. And when I say that in the form of content, it could be in a social media post, but more so, I would highly recommend you creating like a video or a blog post around this. And I'll kind of what I'll do is I'll dissect these into how you should use these and what form of content you should create, and then how it plays into the automation part of it. Because that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here. I'm going to then tie it all back into the automation, because this is really like the foundational pieces of what you need to be successful with your automation. So bear with me just a little bit here. 3 is success stories. So success stories are like testimonials. I always joke is if you can get video testimonials, if you're closing on a home and you have your clients in a room, get them a bottle of tequila or maybe some wine or bourbon and just give them a few shots or drinks, and then ask them to take a video. That usually loosens people up a little bit. So I guess that joke didn't really do well with this crowd, but that's okay.
After the closing.
Yes,
Yes,
after
okay,
the
just
closing.
wanna make
We
sure
don't
we
want
got-
scribble
Yeah,
on there
no.
or like spill tequila on the contracts. Cheers to us. So get success stories. Use it from a video perspective if you can. It's highly recommended. Reason being is that anyone can write a testimonial. Not everyone will have videos of an actual person sharing what they got from the experience of working with you as their real estate agent. So go for video if you can. Highly recommend it. Number 4 is current events. So this is really where the whole having an audience, a specific audience, this is where this comes to play in, because you need to think about your audience. What do they look for? Are you going after investors? If you are, then great things with current events would be economic developments that are happening in the community. It could also be interest rates, could be rent raises, all sorts of things that you can create from a current event perspective. If you're going after families, it could be family style events that are going on in the local areas. It could be concerts. It could be the school systems, new schools, zoning. There's a ton of information that you can share for these different categories, but you just have to know who your audience is. And a lot of times with the current events, man, I did that cockeyed. The current events you can grab from like other third-party resources, sort of like Community Impact. Stewart Title provides a lot of great articles on their Facebook page. You just got to follow these people and just grab that information and share it and put your own perspective on it. And that really helps with the current events. And then you can also use that in your emails, but this has to be a little bit more in the moment versus automated all the time, because these things are current. So it would be hard to have an automation where you're letting them know about the school zones, but the school zones change, every 6 months or so. So just keep that in mind as we move on. Number 5 is education. This is a big one. Now, education, meaning sharing your knowledge behind the scenes. Great things to do is like, for example, the don'ts. Don't do this. Do what not to do when buying a house. for your first time, or what not to do when buying a house when you haven't bought a house in 25 years, you know, stuff along those lines. It can also be like 5 ways to sell your home faster, or 5 reasons why you should stage your home to sell it faster. You know, these are things that you can do from an educational standpoint that you can share it. And then another way, this is a little bit of a hack to create more content, but without having to do a whole lot of work, because we're all about, you know, doing more, working smarter and not harder. Education, use strategic partners. So what I mean by that is, for example, Lindsay and I are strategic partners, right? She does staging, she works with real estate agents. I do marketing, I work with real estate agents. She helps homes sell faster. I help them get more business. So what do? We create content, we share it with each other. So what we did yesterday is we created videos. She created a series of videos that I'm going to share through my contacts on social media, on my video pages, on my website, through email. I'm going to be able to share all of that with my contacts, and I can put it in there to part of my automated process, and she can do the same as well for the content that I created for her. And so what you can do is you can go out and find mortgage loan officers. You can find depending, and this is all going to vary, like if you're going after buyers versus sellers, the strategic partners are going to look a little bit different. You can use a staging company as a strategic partner. You can also use handy people, or handy person company. You could use painters. You could do insurance companies. You can do inspectors, pest control, roofing companies. I mean, the sky's the limit, and a lot of you probably already have these relationships with people. You just have to leverage it a little bit more so you both benefit from it. And it's really as simple as saying, hey, listen, Lindsay, would you mind if I created some content for your contacts that will help them grow their business? And in return, do you mind if you can create some for me? And we could do this on like a monthly basis. So we each create 1 piece of content per month and share it with each other. And if you have 5 strategic partners, then you got 5 original pieces of content you don't have to create for your clients and for your database. And so that can all be put into your automation process. Number 6 is personal. Now, what I mean by personal is there's a lot of things. We talked about this. You mentioned this is a people business. You need to create some trust and some commonality. And the way to do that is you can share personal stuff, hobbies that you might have, charities you might be involved in, family life that you might be doing, activities that you might like to do. All those things are great to share. A lot of times you can share that usually just through social media, but there are times where you can actually write it up and share it on a blog or an email series, depending on what you do. I had an email that went out one time that we take our kids to go hiking like once a month, maybe a little bit more, depending on the situation. And I talked about how great it was to unplug, turn off the phone, get outside, experience nature, get that vitamin D from the sun, be around trees and greenery, and then just spend time with the family, and how much that helps to decompress, recharge, and how that really affects you going forward. And that email gets a lot of responses from people because it hits home. You know, it's personal, but it's also somewhat tied into the business aspect of it. So creating those personal things. Donna, who I'm sure some of you know, she creates wonderful cocktails, drinks. And so she has this one she shared with me. It's a birthday cake martini. And so I gave her the examples that she could take that, create a video of how to actually make it and share it with people. I made birthday cupcakes for my wife the other weekend, and I'm going to share that. And that was cannoli cupcakes. It was delicious. It took a little bit of time, but it was a pretty easy process. And so you can share stuff like that. Recipes are great. If you like to cook, share that. Why are recipes great? Because everyone likes to eat and everyone needs to eat. And so to help a busy person who might not have an idea of some new recipes, you can share that stuff with them, and that helps quite a bit. And what it does, it goes back to that number 1, it builds value. All this is going to build value. And so when it comes down to it, is that from that value you're building and all this, you're going to be able to build their trust, and then you're going to be able to ask as well. So with that said, does anyone want to take a picture of this? No? Good? All right. Okay. I'm gonna actually take a picture of it too. So what we're gonna get into from here, we are gonna go into just to get back to this, like how much value do you bring and at what point do you start asking? So what I say is that there's a 70-30 rule that I created. So 70% of the time, you're creating value and sharing value. And this really works across the board, whether it is for social media or it's for your email campaign. It's the 70-30 rule. And that's 70% of the time you are adding value. And from that, you earn that 30% of the time to ask. And asking can be anything from asking for the business, for asking for a consultation, to ask for a referral, to ask for them to sign up on your email campaign. It could be a lot of things, but it's your call, what is referenced as abbreviated CTA, call to action. It's your call to action within your posts, within your content. And so there's tasteful ways of doing it. We're not going to get into the specifics of how to create content, but there are tasteful ways of asking without just blatantly going, give me your business. So you can do it in different forms using content. So the 70-30 rule. So that shows you the value versus the asking. Now, how do we actually, now that we start setting this up, and I do recommend, to make this even easier, is I recommend creating a schedule. A content schedule, mapping out ideas of what you're going to talk about, what's going to go out when. A lot of this is going to be upfront planning, but allowing you to do that, you're going to be able to mind map the content you're going to be able to put into your automation, because that's really important. So when it comes to automation, there's a couple tools. One I like to use for social media, and it's called buffer.com. Okay. So there's a free version to it, and then there's a paid version to it. The difference in the paid and the free is that the paid, you can have more than just 3 social media accounts linked to it, and you can also post more than 10 posts at a time per social media account. So if you have and it connects with Instagram. So what I recommend is that for real estate agents, you should really be on 3 social media platforms: on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on Instagram. Facebook, you're going to schedule inside of Facebook. LinkedIn, you're going to use it for buffer, and then Instagram, you can use it for buffer as well. So for example, if you're posting, and also what I recommend from a social media perspective is you post 2 times a day. And if you're able to create all this content and have this all mapped out, that 2 times a day is going to be pretty easy. So the Facebook, LinkedIn, so LinkedIn and Instagram, you'll be able to put it in there. You have it, and if you do 10, you can do 10 at a time, or you can up it. If you do 10 at a time at 2 times a day, it's really only 5 days worth of content, which isn't bad. That means you just go back in there every 5 days and add more content, or you can pay I think it's like $10 a month. You pay the $10 a month and you can add as many days into it as you want. But I recommend buffer.com. There's other tools like Hootsuite, and there's plenty of other tools. And sometimes your own command might have these functionalities inside of it that you can use. I'm not sure if they do, but I know they have the email capabilities, but this is a tool I definitely recommend. Now, from an email perspective, there's a couple different tools depending on what your budget is and what functionalities you're looking at. The biggest one I always recommend is, if you don't have one, is Active Campaign. It's probably the most robust, and it's always growing. And it starts off relatively inexpensive. It's about $9 a month or so, and it offers all that automation. And then there's a new one that I've been using that's a little bit less in the functionality. It's a local company actually too, called SendFox. That you can actually get a license for a lifetime, I think a lifetime membership for like $50. Yes.
Nicole Smith wants to know, does posting twice a day apply to weekends as well?
Yes, 7 days a week. 24/7.
There
So
you go.
365.
Okay.
Now, obviously, like around holidays, you can be posting sort of different information or content. How are we doing on time? All right. So SendFox is another one, Active Campaign. All right. So these are some of the tools. Obviously, Zapier will help too with some other automation functionality. But these are the major tools that I recommend. This one is social media focus. These two are email. And this is everything else. Okay. So we have those tools. What I'm gonna do now, let's talk about what kind of automation. The easy thing with the automation process is that for social media, you know, you're doing 2 times a day. You just gotta create the content and then plug it in there. That's pretty simple. Now, when it comes to the email part of it, this is where it gets a little bit more complex and you can do a lot more with this. So this is where we're gonna spend most of the time, or the rest of the time really focusing on the email side of it, which you'll be able to send out information there. So the content that you create should also be the same, like the content you're gonna create for social media should also be the content you're gonna share with your email. Like there's no reason to create separate pieces for these different channels. But when it comes to email, there's a couple different facets you can do. One, you can have an automation sequence for new leads. So people that come in, that could be from various sources. It could be referrals, it could be from advertisements, it could be really from anywhere. And what I always recommend is if they're new leads, there's a couple different things. If they're new leads and they actually haven't signed on to be a client, maybe you just got their information, they're starting to be interested, then this is where you start to nurture them a little bit. You know, you want to push them first and foremost. Like if this was an ad, what I would do with this is push them, create a series of emails, probably about 6 days of emails, and some automation tools, like I believe Command has this, where you can actually include text messages as well. So you just have to capture their email and text. But 6 days of email and text that really are pushing them towards scheduling a phone call or a consultation. Because you need to take that next step, right? Like this is where you have to think about your sales process. When you get a new lead in, what do you normally do? I know for myself, I like to have a free consultation. I spend about 30 minutes with people, talk about their strategy, what their marketing is. And then at the end, if they're comfortable working or they have questions about how they can work with me, then we can talk about it from there. But you have to figure out what you're going to do and what that next step is. And that's when you start to build in this process. The simplest way of thinking about automation is just think about things you would do over and over again for people on a continuous basis. So, you know, you have a new lead, you'll push them like 6 days worth of scheduling. And then from there, if they don't schedule, then you put them into like a long-term nurture is what I call it. And this is where you start to provide information that we talk about with the content. So things like your story should be included in this. Your philosophies, testimonials or success stories, you know, all that 6 different categories of content should be sprinkled into this long-term nurture. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll build out, do about 3 days a week, you send out emails. I know that sounds like a lot, but it doesn't have to be. Yes, ma'am.
Just to be clear, so you get a new lead and you send for 6 days emails, and this is people that haven't called you back or haven't contacted you back?
Yeah, so basically,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
So this is a little bit different than like, let's say someone who's a new client, right? Like someone who's signed on to say, all right, I'm going to be working with you to buy a property. This is someone who's like, I'm interested, but they haven't taken that next step.
Okay, gotcha.
So that's when you start to take advantage and you say, all right, hey, you know, I know you were interested in buying a property. Do you have like 10 minutes to sit down and talk? Or do you have 15 minutes, or can I buy you a cup of coffee? Whatever it is that you want to lure them into, not lure, that sounds bad, but what you want to draw people into to take that next action. You know, whatever that is, then you push them. And a lot of times what you can do is with the scheduling parts is that there are online scheduling tools that it can automatically sync with your online schedule. So if you like use a Google Calendar, for example, you can use a tool called Calendly that you just send people the link and they can schedule calls or meetings with you. And you can set the times of when they are, and it syncs up with your online schedule. So if your calendar says you have something at 2 o'clock on Wednesday and they try to schedule something on there, they won't be able to. It works around your schedule. So it's a very nice tool that's automated that allows you to help get scheduling. And you can use that really for anything. So it could be for like a new lead, it could be for a client meeting, it could be for closings, whatever meetings you need to schedule, you can set those up using Calendly. And there's other tools too, but that's the one I recommend. You can use that to schedule the tool. So this is what the new lead the new lead campaign looks like in essence. But you want to do like 3 days a week when you get into that long-term nurture, and then you sprinkle these into it. And then you have to remember to use the 70-30 rule. So meaning that if you're gonna send, let's say for every 10 pieces of content you send out, 7 of those are gonna be value added, and the other 3 are gonna be asked. So you know that the first, you can do like 4 days, or do 4 days, then ask. Do 2 days, then ask. Then do another 2 days, and then ask. And that's essentially, that's still not 7, that's more than 7. But you get what I'm saying. You kind of sprinkle those in to have it so you have value added. And again, the ask doesn't have to be a blatant ask. It could be like a story you're sharing. It could be a success story. And say, all right, my success story, I worked with this client, we were able to get in the house, they sold the place in 4 days. If you're interested in selling your home faster, contact me and we can talk about how we can actually go about doing that, or I can offer you a free in-home consultation to talk about how we can sell your home faster. So those are like tasteful ways of putting it in there without just being straightforward on it. Okay, so that's new leads. Let's talk about new clients. So if you get a new client in, you have to think about, again, what sort of things do you normally do with new clients that you can streamline? So for example, I'm sure there's a list of things that the new client needs to get together, or a series of things that maybe if it's from a seller perspective, they have to start doing some improvements in the house. So you can create a list of what they need to do and send it out to people. Say, all right, thank you so much for signing on. It was a pleasure. I'm really excited about working with you. Just so you have a reminder, because you probably say this when you have a meeting with people, but you just as a reminder, here's the information that we currently need. And you can send it here. And then you can send out, then maybe there's some other follow-up information you need to send out. You can build that in automation. The other thing you can start to sprinkle in for new clients is your philosophies and your story. I know I kind of shared this briefly with you, but here's a little bit about me and why I love to do real estate. These are some of the do's and don'ts for sellers. You got to think about who your client is again. So you're creating content for them. So you create some, philosophy, maybe some educational pieces you can sprinkle in there. And then you just let that kind of settle. And then depending on how long that process is, you might have to put in another, some other pieces that you need throughout the process, like contracts. Don't forget about the contracts. Don't forget about the inspections, all these things that you can add in there. And that'll help, again, if you're doing this on a repetitive basis with all your clients, it's something you should definitely include in your automation process. So that's for a new client perspective. The other, the last one, and it kind of falls into the long-term category, but it's a little bit different, is your existing or lifetime clients, right? Like clients people that you have worked with and maybe you don't, you want to keep in touch with, and you should. And the goal here is actually to get referrals and some repeat business out of it. So existing clients. So this is where, again, you can start to create a process. It depends too. Like, you got to think about it. Are these buyers, are they sellers? If they're sellers and they sold their home, then there's some information you might want to provide from a seller perspective. Or maybe they're investors, and so there's information you want to continue to educate them as an investor. Don't forget to do this. Don't forget to, have a maintenance person on staff. Don't forget to do this. There's content you can include in there, and you can include educational material. That current events will play a big part in this too as well. So if you have families that just bought a house, you can say, don't forget your new area. These are some of the events that are going on this week. And this is some of the information you can take your kids to, when the summer is rolling around. Here's some summer camps in the area. There can also be, information about activities going on, or maybe like group functions, churches, all the sorts of resources that you can gather together and share. And then you can also share your strategic partner content as well through this referral process. But again, you want to continue to think about the 70-30 rule. So you're going to be 70% of the time, you're going to be sharing the value. The other 30% of the time, you're going to be asking for a referral. Like, hey, just don't forget, if you're really happy with all this, you can even ask for not just a referral, you can ask for a review. Leave me a review on Google, or leave me a review on Facebook. That would really be helpful. And these are different asks. You can ask for referrals, you can ask for reviews, you can ask for tons of things. You can also do with this is you can create client appreciation events where you get in front of your clients and you also have them bring some referrals with them. And those are great ways to really build up the rapport. I have a friend who's a real estate agent, and he strictly has built his business off of referrals by doing client appreciation events. So he does ice cream socials in the summer. He does hot chocolate socials in the winter. He does giveaways for the different sporting events. He'll do it for basketball. He'll do it for baseball. He'll have where he's out in Chicago, there's a little outdoor concert place called Ravinia. So you can do concerts like that. I know Zilker Park has concerts, or movies in the park. Those are things too that you can just get your clients together and come together. You can also just share that information. So, but you want to build this out so it's on a continuous basis. And a lot of times this is original content. This is more like third-party content, getting it from other places. So this stuff will be kind of you'll have to cycle this out. But this could be left in there forever, really, and then you just add to it. Same thing with this. This can kind of live forever. And then client appreciate events, those have to be kind of cycled out. But those two can definitely be built out. So you have, you can start off with a couple weeks worth of content, and as long as you continue to build up this content that you're sharing it first on blogs, on videos, on social media, you can start to add this into your different automation sequences. And then eventually you'll build out maybe 365 days worth of content. Doesn't mean you have to share it every single day, but you will have that much content available to you that you will be set pretty much for a very long time. And then you won't have to worry about doing really any follow-up. So it's an easy way of getting yourself out there without having to pick up the phone and calling 20 people every month or so. You can get in front of a lot more people, stay in touch with them, stay top of mind, using email. Doesn't mean I don't recommend still doing the manual follow-up, but still using these tools and using this process to get it down. So, all right, I'm going to end there because there's a lot more we can get into, but it's going to take a lot more time. Does anyone have any specific questions? I know this was a lot of information.
Good info.
Good. Thank you. No questions?
You're
Nothing
good.
online?
You're good.
All right. Well, if you guys do have any questions, I'm going to show you how you can get in contact with me.
How long should the emails be? I just got a question. Or post.
Okay. So it's a good question. The emails are going to be a little bit different. So some emails might just have full out tips in there, which you can do that way. The other thing is that you can, when you create content, let's say you create an educational piece, for example. 10 reasons why you want to buy a home in 2020, okay? That is going to be a very long post. And what I would recommend, and this is kind of just from content creation standpoint, is I recommend doing video first. Start with the video. The reason is there's a really cool hack you can do. So you can take a video, create a video. Let me wipe this down real quick. I'm going to take a picture. But you create a video, and the video could be like 10 minutes long, right? But then you can get it transcribed on another tool called rev.com, R-E-V.com. They will transcribe for $1 a minute, they'll transcribe a video. The only thing is that you then need to take that and massage it a little bit, do some editing, because the way we talk in person is a lot different than how we read. So when you read a transcription from how you did a video for the first time, and you're like, holy crap, I talk like that? It looks really weird. But I promise you, it's a lot easier to do that than having to rewrite the whole thing from scratch. So creating a video, then taking it, getting it transcribed for, let's say, $4, taking that transcription, and then you're going to be able to massage it. So you go video, you edit, and transcribe. And then you go put it, then you create a blog from it, right? Then you put the blog on your website. And then from there, you create a, like abbreviated version in the email, kind of teasing people, giving them like the gist of it, but teasing them to go read the blog. So then you link to the blog. And that actually helps with SEO purposes too, because you're driving traffic to your website. So there's a lot of other marketing aspects you get from all of this. But so you send the abbreviated version. So the email itself can vary. I know this is a roundabout question or a roundabout answer, but I have written emails that are thousands of words, and then I've written emails that are like 350 words. It really just depends. I would say if you have something like this that you want to share, then it doesn't have to be that long. It could be like 350 words, like a couple paragraphs, and just tease them right into the blog post or into the video. But if you have something else that is a little bit more in depth, then don't be afraid. What I always say with content in general, whether it's a video, blog, or email, or social media, don't worry about the length. Focus on the value. Whatever you're trying to get across from that piece of content, whatever that value is, get that across first and don't worry about the length. Because there are videos out there. I have videos of these online that get hundreds and thousands of views, but they're hours long. But people will sit there, depending on the content, they will sit there and watch it. If it's entertaining, if it's good information, they're gonna sit and they'll spend the time on it. I have other tutorial videos too on my YouTube page that are like how-tos, like how to use Google Analytics. That's one of my biggest viewed ones. It has over 30,000 views on it, but it's 40 some minutes long. So people, like I said, people will watch it. So this is part of the presentation that I didn't really, the slides I didn't get into. So that's what I recommend from the email. I know that might not be the best answer, but it's just the truth. So, okay, let me skip through all this.
Real quick, we have one more question.
Yes.
It says, she is in the process of creating a bio. Is there a tool I can use to create a short video bio that I can post when I announce I'm a realtor and what I've been doing recently?
So there's not a tool. What I would recommend is just grabbing your phone. Everyone has smartphones, and just record yourself in a video. Depending on where you want to put it, I would say recommend putting it on like Facebook, and then YouTube is two different places kind of host it. Facebook is more of a immediate impact and views. YouTube is a more longer lasting place where it will build up views over time. So what I recommend is to take your video, you can buy a little tripod, you can put this against something and just hold it there, or you can hold it up and just do it, and just record a video using your smartphone. The biggest thing is just remember the audio is the biggest part. The actual video itself you could be in the dark and talking, and people will still watch it as long as they can actually hear you. Now, if you have a lot of background distracting noises like loud kids, that I do in my house, or if you're in an area where there's a lot of ambulances or just background sound, then you need to find a more quiet place. You can also buy a little lapel mic that you can plug into your smartphone, and it costs like $10 on Amazon. So you can go on there and do that, and that helps with the audio as well.
I have a question.
Yes.
When you're sending an email, sometimes I struggle with what I should put in the subject.
Sure.
That would make somebody actually open it.
Yeah, so that's a whole nother discussion.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, because that can go, that's a lot. There's a lot into that. It is a good question. So for everyone online, if you didn't hear that, the young lady asked about creating emails, what kind of subject lines to put in there. And that is a hard one to answer really quickly, because you really want to grab people's attention is the biggest thing. You know, something that's catchy that draws people in. I've seen people say, put in there, Brandon, this is your last chance, right? And I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? And then I go in there and they're just pitching me on something, right? That is good because it gets me to open it, but it also can piss me off, and I'm like, unsubscribe. So you got to be careful. There's an art and a science to it. There's really no easy answer to say to it, but the best way is just think about something that's catchy, but also relevant to what that subject is, whatever the email is. It doesn't always have to be short, but shorter is better usually, because if it's a longer sentence, it will get cut off in some email inboxes. So you might only see, you know, the first 4 words, and there might be 6 or 7, and they might not see that last part. So just think about it from that perspective. So yeah, so that's the best way I can answer that question for you. Anyone else? Questions? Okay. So I offer free consultations. You guys can go to my website. Here it is. There's this link. I'll send out the slides too when I get everybody's email. But you guys can take advantage of this. It's actually, I believe it's 30-minute discovery session is the one. You can go on there and schedule a one-on-one with me. You can also you can email me at brandon@brandonmlewin.com if you have any questions or just want to get in touch with me. I also have a podcast. Now, the podcast is on all major podcast platforms, and it's a lot about this stuff. So I talk about the content, talk about LinkedIn, I talk about marketing, I talk about aspects of running a business from a real estate perspective. I also bring on guests. Eventually, we'll have Lindsay on there to do some staging stuff. And then I also have other guests who are very successful real estate agents that have gone through and what they do and some of their suggestions and recommendations. So if you want to, you can subscribe and reach that. And then this is all my contact information. You can, I provide a lot of this content as well through my social media platforms. So if you want to, follow me on Facebook so you can keep up to date on some of the content that I share. Instagram too. Like last week when I did, or 2 weeks ago when I did the Instagram class, I went on there and actually did the 6 different contents. I did it as a post, 2 different posts. The first one was the first 3, the other was the other 3. So you can get kind of that stuff that I keep talking about, because I know as much as you loved it today, it might not get absorbed in your mind right away. So you need a refresher. So I like to provide that stuff through my social media and my email. All right. So that is it. Thank you, Darren and Stuart Title, for coming by. Thank you all. Thank you for everybody online. Thank you for Lindsay for coming by and sharing about staging and sponsoring this event. You can obviously contact Lindsay if you have any staging questions. Contact Stuart Title for all your title needs, and you can contact me if you want to grow your business and you're serious about growing your business. The major thing that I can do to help you, just like a lot of people ask me this question, is that I can help you with the strategy and the processes. All this stuff I have written down in documents and processes, so it's really just about working with you to get them implemented and helping you along those lines. I really don't do it for people anymore. I used to, but what I like to do is, because I believe everybody should do it themselves at first, and then I can even show you how to hire the right people to delegate some of these processes, but everybody should do it the first time themselves. I highly recommend that. So that way you know what you're doing. You also know how to communicate to that person you're hiring, and you can make better hiring decisions. A lot of times, whether it's a real estate agent or a small business owner, they go right out and they hire somebody, but then they don't know what they're hiring for. They don't really understand it. Like SEO is a perfect example. And then they get duped for a bunch of money and a waste of time, and they don't get the results that they're looking for. So if you understand it yourself, you will make a better decision moving forward. So that's how I can help you guys. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem.